we'll do an official roll call.
Calling the meeting to order, the Gladstone Planning Commission, Gladstone City Hall, 525 Portland Avenue, Gladstone, Oregon. Today is Tuesday, September the 17th, 2019. Call to order. The time is approximately 6:41 p.m. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Langston? Commissioner Natalie Smith?
Present.
Commissioner Malachi? Commissioner Poole? Commissioner Pat Smith?
Here.
Chair Rowlett?
Here. Let's salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So tonight we have a situation of, I think I've been total on the Planning Commission for about 13 years, on the first time I served to this time, and this will be the first time that we don't have a quorum. So we have a public meeting that was scheduled, so what's the date certain for the next opportunity to have that meeting?
Do you already have agenda planned for October?
No.
No?
We
Okay.
have a tentative design review that may come in that we were thinking about, but it's not complete and it's not in, so it's not on the schedule. We would have to renotice this 20 days prior to a hearing. We would have time now to put it on the October.
For October?
Yeah.
So yeah, it would be the October 15th?
Okay, so since we didn't start the hearing, we can't just continue it. So we have to renotice and everything then.
You would have to renotice because you do not have a quorum to
Okay.
approve or not approve.
So at this point, this body can't do anything except adjourn the meeting.
Chairman Rowlett, based on the fact that the people that we were going to have the hearing about are not present, is there anything that we can do to ensure of their attendance at the next meeting?
I don't think they have to be present. It's their choice.
Okay. I was just wondering.
So, is there any other...
The only other I was going to follow up with was regarding the TriMet, and there was a question about Glen Echo and the city boundary, and I had followed up with Public Works.
Yeah, I think we can do that because it's not really a
Yeah,
public
I just was
hearing.
going to let you know that that is actually maintained by Clackamas County, and Public Works, Director Wynot indicated that there are no plans for any enhancements, any slurry seal potholes, sidewalks, so for the TriMet that would not be feasible route, as we had discussed, because there are no plans for enhancing that he's aware of through Clackamas County.
Okay, so at this point, I think...
And I have not heard any more from from TriMet regarding that. He was going to possibly follow up on some other route information, but have not heard anything back.
So I think that's something we can discuss down the road.
Okay.
Again, when we have more people. Anything else? So does somebody want to make a motion?
Go ahead.
I have a question, Chair Rowlett. Is things outside the scope of a public meeting, can they be discussed tonight?
Well, I think the only thing we can't do is have a public hearing and vote on it.
Can't make
So
a-
we can have business from the commission and
Correct.
business from the audience, so I think that's fine. Let's do that.
Okay. So we don't have an official meeting open, do we?
We're in session.
We're currently in session, yes.
Okay. I move that we close the public hearing due to a lack of a quorum.
The meeting, not public hearing, because you haven't opened a public hearing, so
Yeah,
you're
we don't
wanting to
have the hearing
adjourn.
open. So I think, though, that as long as we're not having a public hearing where we have to vote on something, if we want to have business, we can do that. Because we're not voting. That's what the whole thing is on a public hearing, is voting and...
And a decision being made.
Right.
So yes, I believe you can do business from the planning commission if you
So how
want,
about
or
the
you,
consent agenda? Can we do that?
again, you don't have a quorum, so I don't believe you can.
So let's do business from the commission, and, 'cause I have a couple things I wanted to say real quick.
Okay. What,
But
since
I'll
you're
go
the chair,
last.
you can go first if you
No,
like.
go ahead.
In looking at our regular agenda, and I'm going to digress to the city council meeting, Planning Commissioner Poole asked a question at that meeting about business from the audience, how it has been cartwheeled to the end of their meetings, and I see it's on the end of our agenda. He spoke to, he felt that was kind of putting a lid on community input. I have the same feeling, although our meetings are shorter and probably less intense, but if someone comes to one of these meetings and wants to talk about something for a couple of minutes, they're forced to sit through, could be an hour or 2 hours before they get their say. And I'm wondering if we're stuck with that regulation because the council's doing it, or if we can switch that back on our own.
No, they
If you
didn't.
would
I
agree
think we can do
with
it.
that.
There's two things, and I
Correct.
agree with you, there's two things that I would like to see. First of all is after the consent agenda and the approval of the minutes, before we go to the regular agenda, that we add business from the, and we'll say business from the public, not business from the audience. I wanted to say from the public.
Okay.
So I'd like that to happen before we go into public hearing.
Okay, before you go into the regular agenda, so after
Right,
the
so if anybody has
consent.
anything they want to bring up, you know, they can do that
Okay.
ahead of the public hearings.
Okay,
And then again, after the public hearings, before business from the planning commission, where somebody might want to make comments on the public hearing. So we'd have two opportunities
Okay.
for business from the public, before the public hearings and after the public hearings.
Okay. if that's,
That's what I would like to do. What do you guys think?
I like that.
I do too.
okay,
I just don't like the idea of making somebody, you know, tonight they'd be able to speak right away, but there's been nights we've been here at 8:30, 8:45, and I think that's asking a lot of a citizen who has input on an item that's not on our agenda.
And it could be, we can do the time limits, but I'd like to open it up for anybody to say anything that they want. If,
we can do
you
that,
know,
yes.
about their cat or dog or whatever,
Okay.
if they want to. Are you guys here for the car planets?
Yep.
There's not going to be a public hearing tonight, unfortunately. We don't have a quorum.
All right then. I'm just
When will it be, any idea?
Yeah.
October 15th will be the next planning commission meeting.
October?
October 15th. They have to renotice, so it has to be officially noticed, so the next meeting will be October 15th at 6:30 p.m.
All right. Okay, we'll be back
Sorry to
then.
interrupt.
All right, well, we're,
Thank you.
we're
Yeah,
glad
please
you
come
showed
back,
up.
because we,
Found out downstairs and we're like,
Yeah,
oh, there's
we saw you on
monsters.
TV and we're like,
Where are we supposed to be at?
Thanks for showing up anyway. So I think, you know, that would give opportunities for people to talk
Sure.
that don't want to sit through it, and then if, you know, afterwards people could have comments to make. And honestly, I don't think it's going to get used that much, so I don't think it's going to cost a
Yeah,
lot of time.
if that's
At the
the
end.
desire of
Yeah.
the commission, and I don't think you need
Public,
a quorum
business
for
from the
that.
public.
Okay, we can make that
Audience,
change.
they're the public.
Gotcha. We can do that.
I like that better too.
That's it
From
for
the
me.
citizens.
Well, I think, you know, the public has got a meaning of its own when you talk about public records and public hearings and stuff like that. The audience is like watching a movie or something to me. We hope that they have input and everybody has a right to speak, and anyway. And that's in Oregon. The public records law is pretty clear, and that's for anybody, and everyone is treated the same. I had to speak at, well, I didn't have to, but we have training similar to what we've had here on public records and so forth. And I had to remind some of the command staff at the sheriff's office that every member of the public has equal say and rights, whether you're a janitor or the sheriff. All your right to speak and what you have to say and access to public records is equal. excluding the 535 exemptions that Oregon has for obtaining public records, which they were saying they were going to reduce that down to about 50 where it started. But I think currently there's like 550 exemptions. Anyway, Natalie?
I don't have anything.
All right. One of the things I wanted to talk about was this, the right to speak at the public hearings and that opportunity. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is for the Planning Commission, I'll have to bring it up again when there's more people here, is the issue of trees, of cutting trees down in the city. Portland's got some stuff going on and things, but I think the biggest issue I have in Gladstone is anybody can cut down any tree for any reason, and like that triplex that we approved over here, they had a beautiful, I think it was an oak tree or something back there, and we used to sit on my front porch and watch the birds land on it and stuff. That tree had to come down because the property owner has rights, and I think that's something that everybody needs to consider. And if you look at that building over there, there's no way that anything else would fit on that lot. That tree had to come down. But I've seen oak trees that are being cut down in neighborhoods because people don't like what's fallen off of them and stuff like that. The problem is with like the white oaks in Gladstone, there used to be, this town was covered with them. It was a grove of oak trees. And people are cutting them down because they don't want the stuff falling. And it's not a limb issue because the limbs actually rarely fall off of those trees. It's more of they don't like the cleanup and stuff like that. I think that we really need to look at some of those trees that are coming down for no good reason. And I think that would satisfy a lot of the complaints I've been hearing. And if anybody's interested in that subject about oak trees in Gladstone, there's a website called garden.org. So it's garden.org. And if you go onto the front page, I think you can search that website without being a member, but I'd suggest that you sign up. It's a great website. There's a little search box to the right. Search for Nick, Nick, one word, N-I-C-K-Y, N-I-C-K. That's my brother, and he is knows everything about trees and plants and stuff like that. And we grew up in this town. So anyway, I think that at some point I'd like to see the Planning Commission just talk about the possibility of a tree ordinance, and then, at least get the discussion started, and then try to, I think it's on all of us to look at the natural resources of the area and the indigenous trees. Some of those trees are being cut down for no reason that were here before the white people were even here. So
I agree with you.
I do too.
I think we have a responsibility. Anyway, that's all I have.
I got a question.
Tom?
What complaints have you heard?
Complaints are people cutting trees down without any good reason.
They didn't want them cut down.
They just didn't want them in their yard anymore. There's right behind my brother's house that we grew up in, that he still lives there.
The complaints were that they're cutting trees off that they shouldn't cut down.
Yes. To him, it was he told me it took him 3 weeks to get over that. He was so upset about it. And some of the other neighbors I talked to in that neighborhood were as well. And it was 3 oak trees in somebody's backyard, and they didn't like the crap that was falling off of the trees. To him, there's no reason for them to cut those trees down. In fact, he paid for the neighbors on both sides of him and paid himself to have their trees trimmed so they wouldn't cut them down, to have them, pruned up out of his pocket. He feels so strongly.
The city of Portland has some regulations, and I don't know what they are, about tree removal. If they get to be a certain size or something,
You have to have a
you have to
permit
have a permit to
remove
them.
any trees.
So there's precedence to do that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I've seen a lot of trees come down in my neighborhood, and if you're building a house, you really don't have any choice, you know, a lot of times. And I would hate, and I've sold property and divided property here in town, and I know if there was a big tree on there, well, my brother says if he dies, blah, 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 and I wind up with that, and I cut that tree down, that I'm gonna
come
go to
back
hell
for ya.
and stuff like that. And I believe it. So hopefully I won't have to get put in that position. Anyway, the point is that, you know, some trees don't need to be cut down, except that the current owner of that property is gonna be dead, like we all are gonna be. Well, that tree's not gonna grow back when you die. The next guy might have wanted it there. So I think we have a responsibility to at least take a look at it and start the discussion.
Sometimes there's a sustainability component to that too, in terms of reducing cities' heat island effect and the heat levels on properties in the summer, things like that. So you
As
can
well as air quality.
correct, yes. There's all
Absolutely.
different types of kind of sustainability initiatives related to tree preservation that you can incorporate too. Yep.
I know in the house I live in right now, when I first bought it, there's a huge tree out in the front yard that fell over. But before that tree had fallen over, I didn't need air conditioning in that house. And in the summertime, because of the way that it's on the other side of Dartmouth, the sun shines like from over here. And now I had to put AC in there, because I can't grow a great big tree out in the front yard. The thing died and fell over. But before that, I didn't need it. Anyway, that's all I have.
Chairman Roulette, your question triggered something in my mind. I had a conversation with the chief of police recently about zombie houses, and he mentioned one particular one that, Officer Boyle, who takes care of the community standards, did too. Cars Planet, if you come off of Glen Echo on McLaughlin and you take the first right, the street forks, and if you go to the right, there's a house almost immediately.
It's on Manor Drive.
Right. It is, it's unbelievably bad. There's others around town, and it would seem to me that at some point, the city has some responsibility to get rid of those. I mean, I'm not saying what that responsibility should be or how it should be handled, but I'm wondering if that's something the Planning Commission should discuss at some point.
The city, in fact, did put liens on that property, and they're going to take that.
The city has placed a lien on that property, and Sean Boyle is working regarding nuisance abatement on that, so there are...
According to both the chief and to Officer Boyle, that guy just ignores those.
Correct.
We're into mid-five figures on fines.
And I have to be sorry that I have to talk about that house, because I spent a lot of time in that house as a teenager. The last people that lived there were the people that lived there when I hung out there, when I was a teenager in Gladstone. And my friend Mike and his brother lived there with their mom and dad. He was Cousins is the name. They had Cousins Plumbing in Milwaukee. Sometime in the 80s, I think, Marie Cousin got sick, and they put her in that nursing home up there on Webster Road. It's going to be a housing thing. And then Mr. went after that, and they both died up there. And I don't know how that property got where it went from there, but there was plates on the table, clothes in the drawers and in the closets, and nobody has lived in that house besides transients since then.
Wow.
And that had to be in the 1980s, so it's been empty for 40 years.
Imagine living on that street with, and again, I'm unaware of the ramifications of how these things work, but I know you're a long-time
Well,
Clackamas
I have no
County
idea
guy.
what happened, how this person that owns that house got it, and why but they'd never
Done a
thing with it since the day they got that house, and that was when the Cousins died.
But I know Clackamas County in the 80s, if you go south on Courtney to River Road and turn left on River Road, headed south, about the third house on the right, the county came out and cleaned it up once and put a lien on the property, and a year later it was right back where it was or worse. So they condemned it. I don't know if they sold it to a developer who tore it down or if the county tore it down and then sold the property. But it would seem to me there's a way for the city to
Well,
do
there's
those
two
things.
things. There's a tax lien with the county, and then the city's got liens on it. They fined them. Sean was involved in all that.
Right.
He should have known.
And that house is currently in foreclosure as well, so that's,
So it's gonna be torn down. There's nothing you can do to fix it. There's been no maintenance done on it for 40 years, so that's a good one to go look at. That says why you have to maintain your property.
But there's others around town also that have been sitting vacant for more than a year that nobody's doing anything with, and they will begin to develop a swirly headed down the drain like that one. And it's other cities have remedies for that, and I'm wondering why Gladstone may not have those remedies.
the first thing
And maybe this is the wrong venue for
I
it,
think
too.
we have remedies.
But if there are concerns like that, I would follow up first with our code enforcement, contact code enforcement, let them know so they're aware of the situation. So it's been documented that someone has contacted them regarding a situation. So that's where I would start.
Okay.
I think this might be an opportunity to find out the parameters of how Habitat for Humanity also can work in situations like this, when you have abandoned homes that can be fixed up for affordable housing.
I think the first thing is if you know, somebody owns a property like the one over there on Manor Drive,
Yeah.
somebody does own that, owned it outright, didn't have a mortgage on it, so the only way you can get that property so Habitat of Humanity could take it is you have to foreclose on it.
And that's what it's currently.
And
currently-
I'm not sure what the end of the day is. It was probably gonna go to public auction over at the courthouse on a date certain, which will be about 6 months from now. I'm guessing. 6 or 8 months. It'll probably be next summer sometime. And then you pay cash for that. You can do whatever you want with it. But that house is too far gone now to
You think
fix
so?
it, yeah.
You think the bones of it are...
It's probably rotted out completely.
Really, that's sad.
Some of them cost more to fix than just to knock down and start over.
Over,
You know,
yeah.
this
Yeah, you
place.
can't.
Exactly.
There's some of them you
Original
just
bids on
can't.
this were almost as much to repair it as tear it down and build a new one.
There's nothing left that house now, I'm sure. I haven't been in there, but I've seen properties that have been sat a lot less
It
time than
might
that
be a
one.
good field trip for us to go do a walkthrough and see how
Well,
bad it
first
is.
of all, it's probably not safe to go inside.
I was gonna say, I don't know that we would be allowed in there. You have to have a warrant, or you have to, you
You can just drive by and have a
yeah,
look.
you can drive by,
Yeah, I know,
but
I've
yeah.
seen it. It's bad.
It's,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, it's really
trespassing.
bad.
Even, you know, if it's not occupied, it's still trespass, you have to have permission. And I think they had a gate locked on it, said no trespassing.
According to the police department, the guy that owns it lives in Portland somewhere, and he's reclusive. Okay, they can't get a hold of him. Everything's done through liens.
There's houses down here on Dartmouth, 2 of them that I know of, that just one on the second block past McLaughlin, 2 of them that sit empty and have been empty for over 10 years.
Yes,
The
one's
guy
right
lives in
across
New
the-
York,
Yep.
and he knows that they're sitting empty, and I know the guy that takes care of those for him and makes sure the lights are on and there's no water leaking. You know,
That's
the guy...
right across the street from my house.
Is that right? Which house do you live in?
I'm right in the one that's in between the two old ones. It's a 1960 ranch, and I look out the window and I see that big 2-story building, and it's been empty as long
That house that you're living in burned down several years ago, and that's a rebuild, so that's a new house, isn't it? That little ranch?
No, you're thinking of that was 3 houses down from me.
Okay.
That built down. That
And then you
totally
have the
was
empty
just-
lot down on the corner. That
Yep.
was, I knew those people too. My grandma lived in that red house on the corner. I grew up there. I lived with my grandma a lot there.
that Steve Smith lives in now?
Yeah.
Okay. Small world. Yep, he's a nice neighbor.
Yeah, I like Steve. Anyway, are we ready to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I second.
And call the roll, or just say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. We're adjourned.